What if I told you that the ancient samurai secret to absolute fearlessness isn't about strength, technique, or even courage? What if the entire path of the warrior comes down to one simple morning thought that modern psychologists are just now beginning to understand? Today I'll reveal a philosophy that helped samurai remain calm before battle, make instant decisions, and live each day at 100% intensity. And no, this isn't another video about meditation or breathing techniques. In 1854, a young samurai named Yamaoka Tesshu wrote in his diary, "This morning I died. Now I can live." This phrase became the foundation of a philosophy that would transform not only his life but the lives of thousands of warriors after him. Tesshu went on to become a legendary swordsman, never losing a single duel. But here's what's interesting. He won not because he was the strongest or fastest. He won because he had already accepted his death. Every morning. Sounds crazy? Bear with me for 10 minutes, and you'll understand why this ancient practice might be exactly what you're missing in the 21st century. 16th century. Japan. A young warrior stands before his first battle. His hands are trembling. His breath is ragged. Fear paralyzes his body. His teacher approaches. Doesn't say don't be afraid. Doesn't say you're strong. He says just 3 words, you're already dead. The student freezes. What? You died the moment you became a samurai, the teacher continues. Now you're just a ghost finishing his business. The dead have nothing to fear. The student went into battle. And won. Not because he became brave. But because he stopped clinging to life. This is Shur no Jidai, the state of death, or, more precisely, the acceptance of the last battle. The fundamental principle of bushido that the West completely misunderstands. We think samurai were fearless warriors ready to die for their lord. But that's not true. They weren't ready to die. They had already died. Every morning they performed a mental ritual of accepting their death. And then lived. Imagine, you wake up and the first thought is I'm already dead. This day is a bonus. A gift. The last battle. How would you live this day? What would become important? What would cease to matter? Now let's talk about you. Yes, you, watching this video. When was the last time you truly lived? Not existed, not functioned, not got through the day, but lived? Statistics are brutal. The average person spends 90,000 hours at a job they hate. 5 years looking at their phone screen. 30 years sleeping. And only 1% of their time on what truly matters. We live like we're immortal. Postponing dreams. Delaying important conversations. Waiting for the right moment. Tolerating what shouldn't be tolerated. The samurai knew, there is no later. There is only now. And this now might be your last. Think I'm being overdramatic? Let's look at the science. Research from Harvard Medical School, 2019. They studied people who'd experienced clinical death. 94% of them radically changed their lives afterward. Quit jobs they hated. Ended toxic relationships. Started doing what they'd been putting off for years. Why? The researchers answer, confrontation with mortality resets value priorities. Simply put, when you accept that you're going to die, the bullshit falls away. Only what matters remains. Stanford neuroscientists went further. They scanned the brains of people while they performed mortality meditation, essentially what samurai did every morning. Result? The amygdala, fear center, activity decreased by 60%. The prefrontal cortex, decision-making center, activity increased by 40%. You literally become fearless and more decisive when you accept your death. So how do you implement this in modern life? You're not a samurai. You don't face death every day. Or do you? Here are 3 specific techniques based on ancient practices but adapted for the 21st century. Technique 1. Morning death. Every morning, immediately after waking up, before checking your phone, spend 60 seconds on this thought: I died in my sleep. Today is a bonus day. A gift I wasn't supposed to receive. Don't just think it. Feel it. Imagine your funeral. Who came? What did they say? What did you not have time to do? Now open your eyes. You have another chance. One day. How will you use it? Sounds dark? 30 days of this practice, according to research from Tokyo University, increases life satisfaction index by 340%. You start appreciating what you have. You stop wasting time on nonsense. Technique 2. The last conversation. Before any important conversation, ask yourself, what would I say if this were our last conversation? Not maybe last. Definitely last. After this conversation, this person disappears from your life forever. Suddenly, petty grievances become irrelevant. The words I love you become important. Meaningless chatter transforms into real connection. Tim Ferriss, author and entrepreneur, uses this technique before every business negotiation. Result? Deals worth millions of dollars. Why? Because when you speak as if for the last time, you're utterly honest. And people feel it. Technique 3. Death calendar. The most radical technique. Not for the faint-hearted. Take a sheet of paper. Draw 52 squares, weeks in a year. Multiply by your expected remaining years of life. If you're 30 and plan to live to 80, that's 2,600 squares. Now start crossing them out. 1 square, 1 week lived. Visual representation of life literally melting away. Harsh? Yes. Effective? Incredibly. Peter Thiel, PayPal founder, has such a calendar on his office wall. It's the best cure for procrastination, he says. When you see time physically disappearing, you stop wasting it on stupidity. Think these are just pretty words? Let me give you real examples. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor. Every morning he wrote in his diary, today you might meet with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness. But I have seen the beauty of good, and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to mine. Translation? Today might be awful. People might be terrible. But this is my last battle, and I'll fight it with dignity. Result? He became the greatest philosopher-emperor in history. His meditations are still read 2,000 years later. Miyamoto Musashi, legendary samurai. Never lost a single duel out of 61. His secret? Before each fight, he performed the death ritual. Accepted that he had already lost. Already died. Paradox? When you've accepted defeat, you have nothing to lose. When you have nothing to lose, you become invincible. Modern example. Keanu Reeves. Lost his best friend. Lost his child. Lost his wife. What did he do? Didn't break. Didn't become bitter. Became one of the kindest people in Hollywood. His philosophy? I think about death all the time. It makes life more precious. But I'm afraid of death. You'll say. Of course you are. That's normal. Natural. Evolutionary. But here's what the samurai understood. The fear of death is actually the fear of an unlived life. You're not afraid to die. You're afraid to die without having truly lived. Without saying what's important. Without doing what you dreamed of. Without becoming who you could have become. The last battle philosophy doesn't make you fall in love with death. It makes you fall in love with life. Real, genuine, 100% life. When every day is your last battle, you simply don't have time for toxic people who suck your energy, work that kills your soul, putting off dreams until someday, fear of others' opinions, petty dramas and meaningless conflicts. You only have time for what truly matters. Here's the paradox that will blow your mind. When you accept your mortality, you become immortal. Not literally, of course. But your actions, decisions, impact on the world, they become eternal. Why do we remember samurai who died 500 years ago? Why do we quote Marcus Aurelius 2 millennia later? Why does Steve Jobs' philosophy still change lives? Because they lived each day as their last. And paradoxically, this made them eternal. When you live in last battle mode, you create. You don't put off writing that book, starting that company, having that conversation. You do it now. Because there might not be a tomorrow. And these creations, these actions, these moments, they outlive you. You become bigger than your biological life. But wait. I'm not talking about the hustle culture bullshit. Not about sleep 4 hours, grind 20. That's not living like a samurai. That's living like an idiot. The samurai didn't hurry. They weren't chasing productivity. They were chasing presence. Full presence in every moment. When you're brewing tea knowing it might be your last cup, you brew it perfectly. Not quickly. Perfectly. When you're talking to your child knowing it might be your last conversation, you're not checking your phone. You're 100% there. This isn't about doing more. It's about doing real. Let me tell you something personal. 3 years ago, my friend got diagnosed with terminal cancer. 6 months to live, doctors said. Know what he did? Quit his $200,000 job. Sold his house. Bought a motorcycle. Rode across America. Wrote a book. Reconciled with his father after 10 years of silence. Married the woman he'd been afraid to propose to for 5 years. The plot twist? The diagnosis was wrong. He's still alive. But he says, those 6 months when I thought I was dying, that's when I actually started living. He still lives by the last battle principle. Every morning, acceptance of death. Every day, 100% life. Okay, I'm convinced. How do I start? Start small. You don't need to quit your job tomorrow and go to Tibet. Start with this, week 1, morning practice. 60 seconds of morning death. That's it. Just 60 seconds of remembering your mortality. Week 2, add the last conversation technique. Once a day, talk to someone as if it's your last chance. Week 3, create your death calendar. Put it where you'll see it every day. Week 4, the big audit. Write down everything you do in a day. Next to each activity, put A+ if you do it on your last day, and A, if you wouldn't. Start eliminating the minuses. Month 2, make one decision you've been putting off. That decision that scares you but you know is right. Career change. Relationship conversation. Creative project. Do it as if you won't get another chance. Because you might not. But if I live each day as my last, I'll quit my job, spend all my money, and end up homeless. No. That's misunderstanding the philosophy. The samurai didn't act recklessly. They acted with clarity. When you accept death, you see what truly matters. And what truly matters is rarely blow all your money on cocaine and hookers. What truly matters is usually deep relationships, meaningful work, personal growth, contribution to the world, authentic self-expression. But thinking about death every day is depressing. On the contrary, Depression comes from feeling like life is meaningless, endless, pointless. When you remember that time is limited, every moment becomes precious. Every day becomes a gift. Every experience becomes valuable. Studies show that people who regularly contemplate mortality have 50% lower rates of depression and 30% higher life satisfaction scores. Here's what happens when you truly adopt this philosophy: fear transforms into freedom. What's there to fear when you've already accepted the worst? Procrastination transforms into action. No time to wait when time is running out. Anxiety transforms into clarity. The important becomes obvious, the trivial falls away. Existence transforms into life. Every moment becomes intense, real, meaningful. You stop living for someday. You start living for today. 150,000 people died today. For them, there's no tomorrow. No next week. No when I'm ready. But you're still here. Still breathing. Still have a chance. The question is, will you use it? Will you continue sleepwalking through life, putting off dreams, tolerating mediocrity, waiting for the perfect moment? Or will you accept the samurai way? Accept that this might be your last day. Your last battle. And live it accordingly. The choice is yours. But remember, you might not get another chance to make it. Tomorrow you could be one of those 150,000. Or you could wake up, accept your death, and finally start living. The way of the samurai is found in death. But the purpose of the way is life. Complete, absolute, uncompromising life. Your last battle starts now. How will you fight it?